Dr. Jake Martinez wiped his hands on his medical coat as he looked out the small window of the USS Horizon. The stars looked different here in the Kepler system. After 3 years of deep space travel, they had finally found what they were looking for: signs of intelligent alien life. Jake had been the ship's chief medical officer for 5 years now. He was 32 years old and had always dreamed of meeting aliens. As a child, he used to look up at the night sky and wonder if someone was looking back. Now that dream was about to come true. Captain Lisa Brooks called all senior officers to the bridge. Jake walked through the ship's white corridors, passing crew members who looked excited and nervous. Everyone knew this was the most important day in human history. On the bridge, Captain Brooks stood near the main screen. She was a tough woman with short gray hair and kind eyes. Jake had always respected her leadership. "We've made contact," she said simply. "They call themselves the Zephyrian Empire. They've agreed to meet us at Aurora Base, a neutral space station about 2 days from here." Jake felt his heart beat faster. Real aliens. After all these years of wondering and hoping, humanity was no longer alone in the universe. The next 2 days passed slowly. Jake spent his time reading everything the science team had learned about the Zephyrians. They were tall beings with skin that looked like crystal. Their skin could change colors based on their emotions. Blue meant calm, red meant anger, and green meant happiness. They were much taller than humans and seemed to be very intelligent. Ambassador Peter Clark arrived from Earth just before they reached Aurora Base. He was a serious man who spoke many languages and had handled difficult negotiations before, but this was his first time dealing with aliens. Aurora Base was a large space station, built specifically for meetings between different species. It had special air systems that could support different types of life. The base looked like a giant wheel, spinning slowly in space. Jake and the other senior officers put on their best uniforms. They wanted to make a good first impression. As they walked through the station's corridors, Jake noticed how clean and bright everything was. The walls were white and blue, and soft music played overhead. They entered a large meeting room with a round table in the center. Humans sat on one side, waiting. Jake's hands felt sweaty inside his gloves. This was really happening. The doors on the other side opened, and the Zephyrians walked in. Jake had seen pictures, but seeing them in person was amazing. They were at least 7 feet tall, with skin that sparkled like diamonds. Their leader was a woman with long silver hair and skin that glowed with soft blue light. She moved with grace and strength. "I am High Matriarch Lyra of the Zephyrian Empire," she said in perfect English. Her voice was musical and deep. "I bring greetings from my people." Captain Brooks stood up. "I am Captain Lisa Brooks of the human ship USS Horizon. We are honored to meet you." Behind Lyra stood other Zephyrians, including a small figure that Jake realized was a child. The little girl had the same crystal skin, but it was lighter, almost transparent. She stayed close to Lyra and looked at the humans with wide, curious eyes. The meeting began well. Both sides exchanged gifts and spoke about their worlds. The Zephyrians lived on a planet with 2 suns and had built a great civilization based on harmony with nature. Humans shared stories of Earth and their journey to the stars. Jake watched the child during the talks. She seemed fascinated by the humans, especially their different skin colors and smaller size. At one point, she whispered something to Lyra, who smiled and nodded. Everything was going perfectly until the child suddenly fell to the floor. The little girl started shaking and her crystal skin began turning dark purple. She was making terrible gasping sounds, like she couldn't breathe. Lyra rushed to her side, her own skin flashing bright red with panic. The Zephyrian healers came forward quickly. They had medical devices that Jake had never seen before, but nothing they tried seemed to help. The child's breathing got worse, and her skin became almost black. "What is wrong with her?" Captain Brooks asked. "The atmosphere," one of the healers said in broken English. Her body cannot process the station's air mixture. Our medicine does not work here. Jake watched the child struggle for breath. Her mother held her, tears streaming down her face. The other Zephyrians looked helpless. Their advanced medicine was useless in this artificial environment. Without thinking, Jake stood up. Let me help. Jake. No, Ambassador Clark said. We don't know anything about their biology. That child is dying, Jake said firmly. He walked over to where Lyra held her daughter. May I examine her? Lyra looked at him with desperate eyes. Her skin was flashing between red and purple. You can save her. I don't know, Jake said honestly, but I have to try. Lyra nodded and gently placed her daughter on the floor. Jake knelt beside the child and pulled out his medical scanner. The device beeped as it analyzed her biology. Jake had studied xenobiology in medical school, but this was his first real test. The scanner showed that the child's crystal-like body needed specific minerals to process oxygen. The station's artificial atmosphere didn't have these minerals. Her body was essentially suffocating from the inside. Jake looked around the room. He needed to find a way to give her what she needed. He remembered that the station's water system contained mineral supplements for different species. If he could extract the right ones and create a breathable mixture. I need to get to the medical bay, he told Captain Brooks. And I need someone to help me carry her. 2 Zephyrian guards carefully lifted the child. Jake led them through the station's corridors, his mind racing. He had one chance to save her life, and he wasn't even sure his idea would work. In the medical bay, Jake worked faster than he ever had before. He extracted minerals from the station's water supply and mixed them with oxygen in carefully measured amounts. The child was barely breathing now, her skin almost completely black dot. Jake created a breathing mask connected to his mineral mixture. As he placed it over the child's face, everyone in the room held their breath. For long seconds, nothing happened. Then slowly, very slowly, color began returning to her skin. Her breathing became steadier. The black faded to purple, then to blue, then to a healthy silver glow. The child opened her eyes and looked up at Jake. She smiled weakly and said something in her own language. Lyra burst into tears of relief, her skin now glowing bright gold, with joy. Thank you, she whispered to Jake. You saved my daughter's life. 3 days had passed since Jake saved the Zephyrian child's life. The little girl, whose name was Kaya, was now healthy and full of energy. She had been asking to see Jake every day, bringing him small gifts like colorful stones and drawings of humans and Zephyrians playing together. The diplomatic meetings had continued in a positive atmosphere. Both sides were discussing trade agreements and cultural exchanges. Jake felt proud that his quick thinking had helped save not just a child's life, but possibly the relationship between 2 species. On the morning of the 4th day, Ambassador Clark called Jake to his private office on Aurora Base. The ambassador looked tired and worried. Jake, we need to talk, Clark said, closing the door behind them. Something unusual happened last night. High Matriarch Lyra requested a private meeting with Captain Brooks and me. She wants to make some kind of announcement today. What kind of announcement? Jake asked. She wouldn't say, but she seemed very serious about it. She also specifically asked that you be present during today's formal session. Jake felt a strange feeling in his stomach. He had noticed that Lyra had been watching him carefully over the past few days. Whenever he was in the same room, her skin would glow with soft golden colors. He had assumed she was just grateful for saving her daughter. Later that morning, all the diplomats gathered in the main conference room. The Zephyrian delegation sat on one side of the long table, while the humans sat on the other. Jake noticed that there were more Zephyrians present than usual. Some wore elaborate robes and jewelry that suggested they held important positions. High Matriarch Lyra stood up slowly. Her crystal skin was glowing with multiple colors that Jake had never seen before. Blues and gold swirled together in beautiful patterns. When she spoke, her voice carried a formal tone that made everyone pay attention. "Honored representatives of humanity," she began, "I stand before you today to make a declaration that will join our peoples in a way that has not been seen for generations." Ambassador Clark leaned forward in his chair. Captain Brooks looked confused. Jake felt his heart beating faster. 3 days ago, a human male showed courage, wisdom, and compassion that touched the very core of Zephyrian values. Lyra continued. Dr. Jake Martinez risked his own safety and reputation to save the life of my daughter, Kaya. In doing so, he proved himself to possess the qualities that our ancient laws define as worthy of the highest honor. She turned to look directly at Jake. Her skin was now glowing so brightly that it filled the room with golden light. "According to the sacred laws of our people, laws that have guided us for thousands of years, I hereby declare Dr. Jake Martinez as my chosen mate." The room fell completely silent. Jake felt like someone had hit him in the chest. He couldn't breathe or think clearly. Did she just say what he thought she said? Ambassador Clark was the first to speak. "Hi, Matriarch. I'm not sure I understand. Are you proposing some kind of ceremonial honor?" "No," Lyra said firmly. "I am declaring a formal mating bond, according to Zephyrian law. Dr. Martinez has proven through his actions that he possesses the strength, wisdom, and caring nature required to be a worthy partner and father to Zephyrian children." One of the older Zephyrians stood up. He wore a purple robe with silver designs. "The law is clear," he said in heavily accented English. "When one saves the offspring of a high matriarch through personal sacrifice and skill, they demonstrate worthiness for the sacred bond. This declaration is binding." Captain Brooks looked at Jake with wide eyes. "Jake, did you know about this?" "No," Jake managed to say. His voice sounded strange to his own ears. "I had no idea." Lyra's skin color shifted to softer blues and greens. "I understand this is unexpected for humans. Your species does not have similar laws. But among Zephyrians, the protection of children is our most sacred duty. When someone from another species risks their life to save our young, it shows a compatibility that goes beyond words or politics." Ambassador Clark was frantically typing on his tablet, probably sending urgent messages to Earth. "Hi, Matriarch. With all due respect, Dr. Martinez is a citizen of Earth. He has his own life, his own career, his own species to consider." "Of course," Lyra said calmly. "I would never force anyone into a bond against their will. But the declaration has been made according to our laws. If Dr. Martinez chooses to accept, he will be welcomed into our society with full honors. If he refuses." She paused, and her skin flickered with red patterns. "Such a refusal would be seen as a grave insult to our culture and my personal honor." The purple-robed Zephyrian nodded seriously. "In our history, only twice has a mating declaration been refused. Both times led to conflicts that lasted for generations." Jake felt the weight of everyone's eyes on him. This wasn't just about his personal life anymore. His decision could affect the relationship between humans and Zephyrians for years to come. "How long do I have to decide?" he asked quietly. "Zephyrian tradition allows for a courtship period," Lyra explained. "During this time, we would spend time together, learning about each other's ways. You would be my honored guest and free to leave at any time. But the formal decision must be made before both of our delegations return to their home worlds." Captain Brooks stood up. "We need time to discuss this with our superiors on Earth. This is completely outside the scope of our mission." "I understand," Lyra said. "But please know that this declaration comes from genuine respect and admiration. Dr. Martinez showed qualities that are rare even among my own people. His quick thinking and caring heart saved my daughter's life when our own healers could not." As the meeting ended, Jake felt overwhelmed. He had come here as a medical officer on a simple first contact mission. Now he was facing a decision that could change his entire life. Little Kaya ran up to him as everyone was leaving the room. She had been sitting quietly in the corner during the formal announcement. Her skin was glowing with happy yellow colors. "Jake, friend," she said in broken English. "You be family now." Jake knelt down to her level. Looking into her large, innocent eyes, he remembered why he had acted so quickly to save her. She was just a child who needed help. Her species didn't matter. Her appearance didn't matter. She was a little girl who was dying, and he was a doctor who could help. "I don't know yet, Kaya," he said gently. "It's complicated." She tilted her head, confused by the word. Then she smiled and pressed a small crystal into his hand. It was warm and glowed with soft blue light. "Mama gave me this when I was born," she said. "Now I give to you. For saving me." As Jake held the crystal, he realized that his life had changed forever the moment he decided to help a dying child. Now he had to figure out what that change would mean for his future and for the relationship between two worlds. That evening, Jake sat alone in his quarters on the space station, holding Kaya's gift and wondering what tomorrow would bring. Outside his window, the stars looked the same as always, but everything else in his universe had shifted in ways he was only beginning to understand. The next week brought strange new routines for Jake. Every morning he would meet with Lyra in one of Aurora Base's cultural exchange rooms. These meetings were part of the Zephyrian courtship tradition that Ambassador Clark had reluctantly agreed to. Both Earth Command and the Zephyrian Council needed time to figure out what to do about the unusual situation. At first, the meetings were awkward. Jake and Lyra would sit across from each other at a small table, drinking tea-like beverages from their respective worlds. Jake would sip his coffee, while Lyra enjoyed a glowing blue liquid that smelled like flowers. They would talk about simple things like the weather on their home planets, or their favorite foods. Jake learned that Zephyrians didn't actually eat solid food the way humans did. Instead, they absorbed nutrients through their crystal skin by touching special mineral stones. Lyra was fascinated when Jake explained how humans cooked and ate different types of plants and animals. "Your species must spend so much time preparing food," she said, her skin glowing with curious green patterns. "For us, a simple touch of the right stone provides energy for many days. Cooking is more than just getting energy," Jake explained. "It's how families spend time together. It's how we show love and care for each other." Lyra's skin shifted to warm golden colors. "This is interesting. Zephyrians show care through sharing light patterns and harmonic sounds. Perhaps you could teach me about this cooking process." As the days passed, their conversations became more natural. Jake discovered that Lyra wasn't just a political leader. She was also one of her planet's leading scientists, specializing in biological research. She had spent years studying how different forms of life could adapt to changing environments. "When I saw you save Kaya," she told him one afternoon, "I recognized the same curiosity and problem-solving approach that drives our best researchers. You didn't just follow standard procedures. You created a completely new solution." Jake felt his cheeks turn red. "I was just doing my job. Any doctor would have tried to help." "No," Lyra said firmly, her skin pulsing with bright blue certainty. "I have met many healers from different worlds. Most would have said the situation was hopeless and waited for others to act. You took responsibility and found a way." There, talks weren't limited to the formal meeting room. Lyra began showing Jake around Aurora Base, pointing out architectural features and technological systems that reflected different alien cultures. The station was like a museum of galactic civilization, with sections designed by dozens of different species. In the Zephyrian section, Jake saw how they used natural crystal formations to create both practical and beautiful spaces. The walls seemed to glow from within, and the floors felt warm under his feet. Everything was designed to work in harmony with their crystal biology. "Our people believe that living spaces should enhance life, not just contain it," Lyra explained as they walked through a garden area filled with plants that looked like living jewels. These crystals don't just provide light. They also purify the air and create harmonic frequencies that promote health and peace. Jake was impressed by the advanced technology, but he also noticed something else. Despite their sophisticated science, Zephyrians valued family and community above everything else. Every space they designed included areas for children to play and learn. Little Kaya had become Jake's constant companion during these tours. She would run ahead, chattering excitedly in her own language, and then trying to translate everything into broken English for Jake's benefit. Her presence made the strange situation feel more normal and natural. "Kaya, like you very much," Lyra said one day, as they watched the child show Jake how to make light patterns with small crystals. "She has never shown such trust with an outsider before." "She's a special kid," Jake replied, smiling as Kaya successfully created a rainbow of colors. "Smart and brave. She reminds me of my niece back on Earth." Lyra's skin flickered with an emotion Jake couldn't identify. "You have family on your world." "My sister and her daughter. They live in California." Jake felt a sudden pang of homesickness. "I wonder what they would think about all this." "They would be proud," Lyra said softly. "Family honors are shared among Zephyrians. Your actions reflect well on all who are connected to you." But not everyone was happy about the developing relationship. Jake began to notice tension among both the human and Zephyrian delegations. Some crew members from the USS Horizon would give him strange looks during their brief encounters. Chief Engineer Tony Walsh had even confronted him directly. "This is crazy, Jake," Tony had said while they were alone in the station's gym. "You're letting them manipulate you. This whole mate thing is probably just their way of controlling the negotiations." "It's not like that," Jake had replied, though he wasn't entirely sure himself. "Lyra isn't trying to control anything. She's just following her culture's traditions." "Are you sure about that? Think about it. You save one kid and suddenly their leader wants to marry you. It's too convenient." Jake had tried to dismiss Tony's concerns, but they planted seeds of doubt in his mind. Was he being manipulated? Was this whole courtship just a political game? The Zephyrian side had its own problems. Jake had started to recognize some of their emotions through skin color changes. He noticed that one of Lyra's advisors, a tall male called Commander Vex, often displayed angry red patterns when Jake was around. During formal meetings, Vex would argue with Lyra in their own language, his skin flashing with aggressive colors. "What is Commander Vex saying?" Jake asked Lyra after one particularly heated exchange. Lyra's skin dimmed to sad blue tones. "He believes that humans are too different from our people. He thinks I am making a mistake that will weaken our society." "Maybe he's right," Jake said quietly. "We are very different. I don't know anything about your culture or your way of life." "Differences can be strengths," Lyra replied. "Your human perspective helped you solve a problem our healers could not. Perhaps our species can learn from each other." That evening, Jake sat in his quarters trying to process everything that had happened. He was developing real feelings for Lyra. She was intelligent, kind, and genuinely cared about making both their peoples better. But he was also aware of the enormous challenges they would face. A soft chime at his door interrupted his thoughts. When he opened it, he found Kaya standing in the hallway holding a data pad. Her skin was glowing with excited yellow patterns. "Jake, teacher," she said proudly. "I learned human words. Want to show you." She had been working with the translation computers to create a list of English phrases. Most were simple greetings and questions, but at the bottom of the list, she had written something that made Jake's heart skip a beat. "I love you, new father." Jake knelt down to her level. "Kaya, do you understand what this means?" She nodded seriously, her skin shifting to gentle blue colors. "Mama, explain. If you choose our family, you be my second father. I would like that very much." Looking into her innocent eyes, Jake realized that this wasn't just about him and Lyra. anymore. Whatever choice he made would affect this child who had already been through so much. The weight of responsibility felt heavier than ever, but for the first time since the declaration, he also felt something else, hope that maybe, somehow, they could make this impossible situation work. 2 weeks into the courtship period, tensions reached a breaking point. Jake woke up to find Ambassador Clark waiting outside his quarters, with a serious expression on his face. "We have a problem," Clark said, without greeting. "Commander Vex has formally challenged your right to court High Matriarch Lyra. He's demanding that you prove your worthiness through traditional Zephyrian trials." Jake felt his stomach drop. "What kind of trials?" "We don't know yet. Lyra is meeting with her council right now to discuss the terms." "But Jake, this could be dangerous. We don't know what these people are capable of when their traditions are threatened." Within an hour, Jake found himself standing in Aurora Base's largest meeting room, facing the entire Zephyrian delegation. Commander Vex stood at the center, his skin displaying aggressive red and black patterns. He was even taller than most Zephyrians, with sharp features and eyes that seemed to look right through Jake. "Human," Vex said, in heavily accented English, "you claim worthiness to bond with our High Matriarch. But saving one child through accident and luck does not prove true strength. I invoke the ancient right of trial by challenge." Lyra stepped forward, her skin flashing with angry colors. "Commander, this is unnecessary. Dr. Martinez has already proven his worth through his actions. One act does not define a lifetime," Vex replied coldly. "If this human truly possesses the qualities our people value, he will welcome the chance to demonstrate them properly." Jake looked around the room. Some Zephyrians nodded in agreement with Vex, while others seemed uncomfortable with the situation. He realized that this wasn't just about him anymore. This was about whether humans and Zephyrians could really understand and respect each other. "What do these trials involve?" Jake asked. Vex's skin shifted to darker colors. 3 tests, as prescribed by ancient law. First, the trial of wisdom, where you must demonstrate understanding of Zephyrian values and philosophy. Second, the trial of skill, where you must show practical ability to serve our people. Third, the trial of heart, where your emotional strength and commitment will be tested. And if I fail, then you will be proven unworthy, and this foolish mating declaration will be dissolved with honor intact for all parties. Jake looked at Lyra. Her skin was cycling through worried blue and gold patterns. He could see that she wanted to protest, but her position as leader meant she had to respect her people's traditions, even when she disagreed with them. "I accept the trials," Jake said quietly. The first trial began that afternoon, in a special chamber filled with crystal formations that created complex light patterns. Jake sat on a simple chair, facing 3 Zephyrian elders, including Commander Vex. The crystals around the room pulsed with different colors as they spoke. "Young human," the eldest said, in a voice like singing crystal, "tell us why you believe individual life has value." Jake had expected questions about Zephyrian history or customs. This philosophical challenge caught him off guard. He thought carefully before answering. "Every person, whether human or Zephyrian or any other species, has something unique to offer," he said slowly. "When Kaya was dying, I didn't think about politics or species differences. I saw a child who needed help, and I knew that her life had meaning and potential that shouldn't be lost." The elders exchanged glances. Commander Vex's skin remained dark and skeptical. "But resources are limited," another elder said. "Sometimes sacrifices must be made for the greater good. How do you choose who deserves saving?" Jake remembered his medical training and the difficult decisions he had faced as a doctor. "You don't choose. You save who you can save, when you can save them. Every life is worth the effort, even if you can't save everyone." The questions continued for hours, ranging from medical ethics to leadership philosophy to the nature of love and family. Jake answered as honestly as he could, drawing on his human experiences and the Zephyrian values he had learned from Lyra. By the end of the session, Commander Vex's skin had shifted from aggressive red to neutral gray colors. The human's answers show some understanding, he admitted grudgingly. He passes the first trial. The second trial took place in Aurora Base's medical facility. Jake found himself facing 3 injured Zephorian volunteers who had agreed to be test patients. Each had a different type of crystal damage that required treatment with limited supplies. You may use only the materials provided, Commander Vex explained, gesturing to a small collection of basic tools and Zephyrian healing stones. No human technology is permitted. Jake examined the patients carefully. The first had a crack in his arm crystal that was causing pain and limiting movement. The second had internal crystal contamination that was making her sick. The third had suffered crystal burns from exposure to incompatible energy sources. Working with unfamiliar tools and techniques, Jake had to rely on the medical principles Lyra had taught him about Zephyrian biology. He used harmonic frequencies from the healing stones to encourage crystal regrowth in the first patient. For the second, he created a purification treatment using mineral solutions he had learned to prepare during their courtship meetings. The third patient was the most challenging. The crystal burns required a combination of cooling treatments and energy redirection techniques that Jake had only read about in Zephyrian medical texts. He worked slowly and carefully, constantly checking with the patient to make sure his treatments weren't causing additional harm. After 4 hours of intensive work, all 3 patients showed significant improvement. The arm crystal was healing properly, the contamination was clearing up, and the burns were fading to healthy silver tones. Commander Vex examined each patient thoroughly before nodding. The human shows competence with our healing methods. He passes the second trial. The third trial was different from the first 2. Jake found himself alone in a darkened room, with only Commander Vex for company. The Zephyrian skin was glowing with strange patterns that Jake had never seen before. This is the trial of heart, Vex explained. I will use our natural empathic abilities to test your emotional strength and true motivations. Many humans would find this experience overwhelming. Jake felt a strange tingling sensation in his mind, as if someone was gently touching his thoughts. Colors began swirling in front of his eyes, and he started experiencing emotions that weren't his own. Fear, anger, sadness, and joy washed over him in waves through the mental connection. He could sense Vex probing his memories and feelings. The commander was looking for signs of deception, weakness, or hidden agendas. Jake tried to remain calm and open, letting Vex see his genuine care for Kaya and his growing feelings for Lyra. But the mental pressure was intense. Jake felt like his skull was being squeezed, and sweat began pouring down his face. He could sense Vex pushing harder, testing his limits. Images flashed through Jake's mind. His childhood on Earth, his medical training, his decision to join the deep space mission, and his first meeting with the But most prominently, he kept seeing Kaya's face when she was dying and his desperate determination to save her. Why did you really help the child? Vex's voice seemed to come from inside Jake's head. What did you hope to gain? Jake focused on that moment when he had knelt beside Kaya, not knowing if his treatment would work. I gained nothing, he said out loud, though his voice sounded distant and strange. I couldn't let her die when I might be able to help. That's what doctors do. That's what people should do for each other. The mental pressure increased until Jake thought his head might explode. But instead of fighting it, he relaxed and let Vex see everything. His fears about the situation, his uncertainty about the future, his genuine care for both Lyra and Kaya, and his hope that humans and Zephyrians could build something good together. Suddenly, the pressure stopped. Jake gasped and almost fell from his chair. When his vision cleared, he saw that Commander Vex's skin had changed to colors he had never seen before. Soft purples and silvers swirled together in patterns that somehow conveyed respect and acknowledgement. I have seen your heart, human, Vex said quietly. Your motivations are pure, and your emotional strength is greater than I expected. You truly saved the child because it was right, not because you hoped for reward. Jake wiped sweat from his forehead. Does that mean I passed? Commander Vex stood up, his skin now glowing with the same golden colors that Jake had learned to associate with honor and acceptance. You have passed all 3 trials. By the ancient laws of our people, you have proven yourself worthy of the mating bond with High Matriarch Lyra. As they left the trial chamber, Jake felt a mixture of relief and apprehension. He had proven himself to the Zephyrians, but now he faced an even harder challenge. He had to decide if he was ready to leave his old life behind and build a new one with Lyra and Kaya among the stars. The morning after Jake passed the trials, he woke to find an urgent message waiting on his communication device. It was from Admiral Sarah Thompson, the head of Earth's Deep Space Command. Her face on the small screen looked stern and worried. Dr. Martinez, the recorded message began, Earth Command has been monitoring the situation at Aurora Base with great concern. While we appreciate the diplomatic importance of maintaining good relations with the Zephyrians, we cannot allow one of our officers to be pressured into an alien marriage that could compromise his judgment and loyalty. Jake felt his heart sink as the message continued. Captain Brooks has been ordered to extract you from the station immediately and continue the mission as planned. You are to report to the USS Horizon within 24 hours for departure. This is a direct order from Earth Command. Jake stared at the blank screen after the message ended. He had known this moment would come, but he hadn't expected it to feel so final and cold. Earth Command saw him as just another officer following orders, not as a person who had formed real connections with Lyra and Kaya. A soft knock at his door interrupted his thoughts. When he opened it, he found Lyra standing in the hallway. Her skin was glowing with sad blue patterns, and he realized she had probably received similar news from her own superiors. The Zephyrian High Council has also reached a decision, she said quietly. They believe that bonding with a human would create too many complications for our society. They have strongly advised me to choose a mate from among our own people to maintain political stability. They walked together to one of Aurora Base's observation decks, where they could look out at the stars in privacy. For several minutes, neither of them spoke. They both understood that forces beyond their control were pulling them apart. Do you regret saving Kaya? Lyra finally asked. Never, Jake said immediately. That little girl deserved to live, no matter what complications it created. Lyra's skin shifted to warm golden colors. I knew you would say that. It's one of the things I admire most about you. You act from your heart, not from calculations about consequences. What happens now? Jake asked. I don't know, Lyra admitted. I have never faced a situation like this before. My heart tells me one thing, but my responsibilities as a leader tell me another. Before Jake could respond, they heard running footsteps behind them. Kaya burst onto the observation deck, her skin flashing with excited yellow patterns. She had been taking English lessons with the base's translation computers and was getting better at expressing herself. Jake, Mama, she called out. I made something for you. She was carrying a small crystal sculpture that looked like 2 figures holding hands, with a smaller figure between them. The craftsmanship was simple, but the meaning was clear. It was a family. For when you get married, Kaya said proudly. I made it myself in the crystal garden. Jake knelt down to her level and took the sculpture. It was warm to the touch and seemed to glow from within. It's beautiful, Kaya. Thank you. You're not leaving, are you? She asked, her skin shifting to worried purple tones. Tony from your ship said humans might go away soon. Jake and Lyra exchanged glances. They had been trying to protect Kaya from the political pressures surrounding their situation, but children always seemed to sense when adults were troubled. We're trying to figure that out, Jake said gently. It's complicated. Kaya's expression became very serious. When I was sick and the healers couldn't help me, you didn't say it was complicated. You just helped me. Why is this different? Her innocent question hit Jake like a physical blow. She was right. When faced with a dying child, he hadn't worried about political consequences or cultural differences. He had simply done what felt right. You're absolutely right, he said, standing up with new determination. Sometimes the right choice is simple, even when everyone else thinks it's complicated. That evening, Jake sent a message to Admiral Thompson requesting permission to address both Earth Command and the Zephyrian High Council via quantum communication link. It took hours of negotiations, but eventually both governments agreed to hear what he had to say. The communication session took place in Aurora Base's main conference room. Representatives from both species gathered around the large table, while massive screens displayed the faces of leaders from Earth and the Homeworld. Jake stood in the center of the room, feeling the weight of two civilizations watching him, but when he began to speak, his voice was steady and clear. Honored leaders of both our peoples, he began, I understand your concerns about the unusual situation we face, but I believe we're looking at this from the wrong perspective. He gestured toward Lyra and Kaya, who were sitting together at the table. 3 weeks ago, I saved a child's life because it was the right thing to do. Not because she was important politically, not because I hoped to gain something from it, but because she was a little girl who needed help, and I was in a position to provide it. Admiral Thompson's image on the screen looked skeptical. Dr. Martinez, while your actions were commendable, we cannot base interstellar policy on personal emotions. With respect, Admiral, I disagree, Jake replied. The foundation of any successful relationship, whether between individuals or between species, has to be based on mutual respect and genuine care for each other's well-being. He turned to address the Zephyrian High Council. High Matriarch Lyra declared me as her chosen mate because I demonstrated values that your people consider important. But what I've learned over these past weeks is that humans and Zephyr share many of the same basic values. We both care about protecting our children, building better futures, and treating others with compassion. Jake walked over to where Kaya was sitting and placed his hand gently on her shoulder. This little girl asked me why I was making things complicated when the solution seemed simple to her. She was right. The solution is simple. He looked directly into the cameras, transmitting his words to both homeworlds. I propose a new kind of union. Not just a marriage between Lyra and me, but a partnership between our species. I'll accept the role of cultural ambassador, living among the Zephyrians and learning their ways while helping them understand human perspectives. In return, Lyra can serve as a similar ambassador to humanity. Lyra stood up, her skin glowing with hopeful golden patterns. The doctor speaks wisdom. Our peoples have much to learn from each other. A formal cultural exchange could benefit both civilizations. And Mikaya asked, in her improving English, what do I do? Jake smiled at her. You'll be the first child to grow up truly knowing both cultures. You can help other human and Zephyrian children learn to be friends. The debate that followed lasted 4 hours. Leaders from both worlds raised concerns about security, cultural contamination, and political precedent. But gradually, the practical benefits of Jake's proposal began to outweigh the objections. Finally, Admiral Thompson nodded slowly. Dr. Martinez, if you're willing to accept this role, Earth Command can approve a cultural exchange assignment. But you'll be taking on enormous responsibilities. The Zephyrian High Council leader, an ancient being whose skin sparkled like starlight, spoke in harmonious tones. High Matriarch Lyra, if you accept this arrangement, you will be pioneering a new form of diplomatic relationship. Are you prepared for such a challenge? I am, Lyra said firmly. With Dr. Martinez as my partner, I believe we can build bridges between our peoples that will last for generations. 3 months later, Jake stood in the crystal gardens of the Zephyrian homeworld, watching Kaya play with a group of children who had come to see the first human to live among their people. His new home was beautiful beyond anything he had imagined, with crystalline structures that captured and refracted light in ways that made the entire city seem to glow. Lyra approached him, carrying a data pad containing reports from their latest cultural exchange project. They had established medical training programs where Zephyrian healers learned human techniques while human doctors studied crystal biology. The early results were promising. The first group of human students will arrive next month, she said, her skin displaying the happy golden colors Jake had learned to love, and 3 Zephyrian scientists have been accepted for research positions on Earth. Jake put his arm around her shoulders, still amazed by how natural their relationship had become. Kaya will be excited to meet more humans. She's already planning to teach them Zephyrian light pattern communication. They watched as Kaya demonstrated the technique to a young human girl who had arrived with her diplomat parents. The 2 children were laughing together as they created rainbow patterns with small crystals, completely unconcerned about the differences between their species. You know, Jake said thoughtfully, I used to think that saving one child's life was just a small act in a vast universe. But sometimes small acts lead to big changes. Lyra's skin shifted to deep, contented blue tones. In Zephyrian philosophy, we say that every crystal in a formation supports the whole structure. Your decision to help Kaya became the foundation crystal for everything that followed. That evening, as Jake helped Kaya with her dual language homework, and Lyra worked on plans for the next cultural exchange mission, he reflected on how much his life had changed. He had left Earth as a ship's doctor on a routine mission. Now he was helping to build the future of interstellar civilization. When Kaya finished her homework, she came over to show Jake her latest crystal sculpture. This one depicted humans and Zephyrians working together on various projects, with children from both species playing together in the center. It's for the new museum, she explained proudly. The one that will teach everyone about how our peoples became friends. Jake examined the intricate artwork, marveling at how skillfully she had captured the spirit of cooperation and hope that had grown from one desperate moment in a space station medical bay. It's perfect, he told her. Just like our new family. As Kaya settled down for sleep and Lyra continued her work, Jake looked out the window at the alien sky above their home. The stars looked different here, but they no longer seemed strange or foreign. They had become part of his new universe, a place where a human doctor's choice to save one child had opened the door to friendship between the stars.